It's not often we unbox board games here on Wargames Illustrated TV, but we're going to take a look at Britannia by the Plastic Soldier Company for two reasons. One, it's by PSC, who are in the main a Wargames company, and two, it's really good. Oh, and also it's all about war. This version of Britannia is the third incarnation of the game, and as we get more into it, we'll talk a bit about what's new. Let's start by lifting the lid and seeing what's inside. First off, we have a sheet of punchboard tokens. I won't confuse you by saying anything more about those at this stage. Next up, the 58-page rulebook. Yes, it's quite a beast. Britannia isn't a game for the faint-hearted. As we flick through, I'll use this opportunity to tell you a bit more about the game. So, 4 players are required for the classic game, more on Duel Britannia later, with each player controlling several different nations, which come and go during the course of a game. When a nation is active, its controlling player scores victory points for achieving certain objectives. These are mainly in the form of taking and holding land, but can also include destroying opposing armies, becoming king, or building forts. Each of the 16 terms of the game represents a number of years. In certain years or turns, invasions will bring different nations into play. For example, in turn 6, 430 to 485 AD, there is a major invasion of Saxons led by Allah, who begins in the Frisian Sea, and hopefully sweeps across the land, destroying enemies, taking land, securing a base for future expansion, and scoring points for the player who controls the Saxons, who had also previously controlled the Celtic Brigantes, Irish, and will later control the Norsemen. The genius of Britannia is that the game keeps everyone involved by mirroring the rise and fall of the nations of early medieval Britain, and while some nations, like the Romans or Normans, score you big points, smaller nations, e.g. the Caledonians or Jutes, can only ever provide a player with a small number of points. It's a ridiculously ambitious subject for any board game to tackle, and you have to applaud the designer for even trying, let alone succeeding. Don't expect to pick up all the rules on your first or even your second game, but you can do a mini fist pump in your third game when, for example, you remember that the Norwegians gain 1 additional reinforcing army in the North Sea for every area they occupy. As well as the rules for Classic Britannia, which remain pretty much unchanged from the second edition, there are also 14 pages of rules for Duel Britannia. Duel Britannia is a new way of playing Britannia, which is designed specifically for 2 players and takes significantly less time to play than the classic version of the game, with a playing time of around 2 rather than 5 hours. The rules are very similar, but significantly the period covered in the game is 350 to 1050 AD, so there's no Roman or Norman invasions and only 13 turns. The rulebook concludes with a relevant historical notes section, so you can read up on exactly why the Welsh get so many points for taking York in turns 8 or 9. As well as the rulebook, we have several play sheets which contain information concerning scoring, the order of play, and the timeline. You will need these close at hand at all times, as they are your guide to what and when you score points, and which nation has its turn next. The game board is a splendid piece of kit, both durable and fantastically illustrated, showing on one side the expanse of Britain from Cornwall to Orkney, and on the other the Duel Britannia board, which includes Ireland. I had feared that the inclusion of miniatures as opposed to tokens in this version of the game would mean that the board was too crowded, but my first game on this expansive board allayed those fears. As well as all the dice you need to play, the game also includes 210 plastic miniatures, representing the infantry, cavalry and leaders of the different nations, resplendent in purple, red, black and blue. This is a new innovation for Britannia 3rd edition. Previous versions have only featured tokens. Designed by Wargames figure sculptor Bob Naismith, these are great little models with plenty of character whilst remaining nice, tough playing pieces. We can forgive the manufacturers for making, for example, the Irish and Scots the same figure, just in different coloured plastic, if we consider the cost involved in the production. Hooray for the return of Britannia, I say. It's a great game that is a fine epic mix of fun and endurance test. No matter what the manufacturers say, you're doing well if you can get a game of Classic finished in less than 5 hours, but it's worth it. You really do feel the history of Britain opening up as you play the game, or at least the bits where people are hitting each other with swords and spears. And every game tells a different story, leaving you thinking, if only I would have done this rather than that, which is the measure of a good game in my book. Well done to PSC for breathing new life into this much loved game. This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated Magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.